We're going to get that roll of the dice for weather, and it looks gloomy here, Unicorn, as we jump into Spain. 20 drivers on the grid.
But rain would be... You are right, there's a lot of clouds in the sky over Barcelona here. Let's hope it's not like the real F1 race where the rain seems to be everywhere but the track.
I remember speaking with a Spanish driver we have in MRL, Alex Bitto, that morning of the race, and I had said to him, "Where's the rain?" He says, it's raining all over here, but apparently none of the raindrops hit the circuit throughout that Spanish Grand Prix that we watched. Of course, we'll be looking to see who the first racer out to set a lap here is. They'll be looking at strategy as well as getting things in order, because once they leave the pit lane, Parc Ferme is in effect. So they're not going to be able to adjust their setups at any point throughout once they've selected things. Of course, they have 18 minutes to qualify in this race.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what tires we've only got. Tim there in the Alpha Tauri. He's just the mediums, as are a few others now. Safso as well. Someone switch them and then switch instantly off them. As we start to hear engines rumbling, and it's a Williams first up the pit lane. Which one is it?
I believe that is Adam in the yellow T-Cam Williams, driver 2 in that position.
Yeah, he's opting for the soft tyres. A lot of these drivers sticking with the softs for now. Obviously, it doesn't really matter until they've actually gone out on track and set a lap time, so we could see a lot of drivers look a bit undecided. I've already seen a couple of drivers switch from softs, mediums back to softs. So a little bit of indecision going on in the pit lane right now as to which tyres people want to select.
We were being told that it's going to be some overcast conditions, but it's looking like it's going to be a dry encounter this afternoon / evening. Wherever you may be joining us, of course, it is Misfits Racing League European Division, round 1 around the Spanish circuit, the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, which is a fantastic circuit as Adam now gears up to set the first flyer here in the Williams.
Across the line, there he goes. He's starting his lap, and then we're going to get a nice benchmark here because, like you said, this grid, unlike all the other ones, we've seen sort of the pace we can expect from most of the drivers in our other grids, whereas here we've got a few people not in it, as NRG gets disqualified from the session for blocking the pit lane.
Very odd to see that so early. Could be that he left the pit limiter off or on. Maybe the car just went stationary, not entirely sure. Of course, pit limiter is disabled here. Now Adam is having a major issue in that gearbox.
Yeah, approach to that. This sort of long 90-degree right-hander onto the straight here with one of 2 DRS zones. And I'm sure we'll see plenty of action coming down into turn 10 here. And then the tricky 11, 12 couple of turns. Quite easy to make a mistake here if you're not 100% focused. And then the chicane of 14 and 15 towards the final corner, and he's going to set our first lap time here in the MRL EU division with a 1:17.1. Whether that's competitive or not on this grid, we'll have to wait and see. Ruben, a 1:15.5 from the Ferrari driver.
Now, next driver to cross, I was going to say it was going to be Kana, but Kana seems to have invalidated, as has his other teammate. Now I think we're going to jump on with Baza, who looks to be finishing a flyer just ahead of the Haas behind him. I'm going to call him JX because I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce that name, as they have both seemed to finish flying laps here.
Yeah, JX is setting a very fast line lap time. I wonder whether he caught Atom too early and maybe cost him a little bit of time or not. But Nicolaitis into first place, 1:15.1. So so far a lot of a disparity through the current times, but still a long way to go here in the qualifying session.
His teammate now, that's Hurricane, or excuse me, Ruben's teammate, Hurricane, now crossing the line into 8th position. That's a 1:19.1 from him. And that's somebody else who's jumped up into the points positions. That's, I believe, Steph. I could be mistaken. No, it was Tim into 6th there. So he's there in the top 6 now on the medium compound tires as well. A 1:16.7 the time from him in the AlphaTauri, and we'll see if he's able to improve maybe on some faster rubber.
Yeah, he's blown Hurricane's time on the medium tires out of the water there. They're the only two to have gone around and set a lap time on that compound tire so far, but the soft right now definitely looking much faster than anything else. So, like you said, I imagine we'll see them try and set a time on a faster compound tire. Well, Coders in the Red Bull, he's going to cross the line. He goes 9th with 1:17.5.
Now on board with the Red Bull, flying around into Sector 2. That's Dirk Chocolate coming through into the left-hander now. Of course, I think he wanted to sign with Mercedes this season. I think that Dirk Merc nickname that he's coined over in his neck of the woods has been quite well received, but unfortunately, into that Red Bull again. Fast car. He'll be looking to do the squad proud, I'm sure, as he comes across out of the final turn now. What's it going to be? He pulls off. That's a 1:18.2 right now, and he dropped off a significant amount from that time there.
Yeah, I don't think many real-life F1 drivers would have too many quarrels with being put in a Red Bull. Mullen, he's on a flyer as well in the Renault, and Kana has just started one as well in the McLaren. Neither of them have set a time so far. Stream as well, he's starting a flyer, as has Vettel. Another medium compound attempt in Racing Point.
This circuit, a very difficult overtaking circuit. I've also seen safety cars become somewhat of an occurrence here. There's a decent amount of runoff here around Spain, but I feel like that Sector 2 section where they come out of that almost uphill hanging right. There's been a lot of drivers I've seen, at least in the previous MRL races that we've had here, almost cook it coming out of that right-hander. They take a little bit too much of that curb on that left-hand side coming up the hill, and then they run off into that gravel trap, and sometimes it just carries them through into the wall as Moen jumps into 8th position, a 1:16.8 in the Renault.
And we saw him do a pretty strong drive in the Netherlands last week as a reserve, so now as a full-time driver we'll see how consistent he can be over multiple races in that Renault.
Now it's Extreme in the Alfa Romeo. He jumps into 6th on the grid in the, well, the red car that we'd normally see Kimi driving, I guess you could say. But Extreme, he is also a driver here full-time for the EU grid. We've seen him full-time last season in MRL. And hopefully he'll be able to do well here. Now it's the other Renault of Safzo on a flyer. Safzo, of course, very quick. We had a practice race with him last week in Silverstone where he just got tangled up in some very unfortunate circumstances. We saw him out of it early, but I know Safzo, for a guy who I've raced with previously, to be someone with a massive amount of pace. Of course, Raggy in the Rag Nation League there, he races in that, and he's quite quick there, so I think that he's definitely going to be my dark horse today. He doesn't have a time set just yet, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to call it blind here, but I think we're going to see him in the top 5 today. I definitely hope so. It'd be good to have him with a solid debut. I'm sure the Renault boys want to see it. Moen, his teammate, in 10th right now. This gap is going to close up as well. Yeah, he jumps into 8th.
Ruben set the second fastest time of the session, a 1:15.1 in the Ferrari, just bumping down Kana in the McLaren there. But it's still Nicolaitis up in P1 in the McLaren. He's on an outlap. His teammate Lutra, he's flying as well. he's someone who's definitely been fast, or I've seen been fast in this game. It's a set of time here, though, in the other Mercedes, as he approaches the final sector.
Lutra through the Endurance Series this season has been extremely competitive with none other than that of the Spaniard Alex Bido. We saw them do battle in both Brazil and here in Spain for the Endurance Series, and of course the Endurance Series 100% distance racing. It's quite the long haul, if you will. Lutra now going to set his first time. He's one of the favorites, I think, here in the EU grid. What's it going to be? He jumps into 4th position for his first lap out. Now it's going to be the Mexican driver of Vettel, the last one to set a time here in this session. He's coming down through the final chicane, and it's going to be Energy, unfortunately, the only driver here not to set a time in qualifying, as he was disqualified for some kind of issue blocking the pit lane on exit. But we'll ride along with, of course, Vettel, who is in Checo's car. Coming down through turn 1, up through 2 now.
Nova's just crossed the line at 1:16.6 from him. That puts him into 11th place. Still 1.5 seconds off of pole position right now. So a pretty big time gap between just all the drivers on this grid right now. Safsa, a very impressive time there currently with a 1:16.4 on medium compound tyres.
Yeah, one thing to note there is Safso on those mediums. We'll take a look at the gap to the leader right now through this grid. Of course, P1 a 1:15.1 down through into 10th. That is Safso. The gap is currently 1.289, meaning that all of those drivers from 1st into 9th position are within a second of the current provisional pole sitter. Of course, things aren't finished up here yet in quali. We still have 6 minutes remaining according to our clock. And there goes Vettel. He is invalidated at last second on that final turn. And he comes into the pit lane very quickly to get onto a fresh set of tires, as I'm sure he's not going to be happy about having no time on the board just yet.
Yeah, especially as he's on the mediums, as Nikolaitis goes faster with a 1:14.995, so just squeezing under the 1:15 mark there.
Meanwhile, Nova in the Haas kicks Safso into 11 there. He improved by almost 4/10 on his lap.
Running a little bit of a risky game. He's gone around a couple of times on those tyres, so they're going to be quite old by the time he starts this race. If he starts on that compound of tyre, he has got time to come in and switch out for a fresh pair of boots on that Haas. But right now, those tyres are already 2 laps old. Don't really want to start the race on a tyre like that, but it's going to get him higher up the grid. Might be worth it, as Kana as well. He's currently in 3rd. He's on a flyer in the McLaren with 5 minutes left in the session.
One curious thing to note here is that the JX and Nova, both Haas drivers, on multiple laps on those soft compound tires. Very interesting strategy coming out of that camp, as we see the Haas duck in behind the Ferrari there as they were getting out of the way of Kana on this flyer. Now he's coming up on Nova in the Haas. Nova needs to get out of the way for traffic here. Hopefully he sees him in the rear view. We'll have to see. Oh, he's gaining massively on Nova, and it looks like Nova into the pit lane. He may have cost him some time there. Of course, it's very tight coming into that chicane. Kana does improve, but not by a massive amount. Nearly a 10th of an improvement. It sets him just ahead of Ruben into 2nd position here.
Yeah, and Ruben's flying as well, so Kana's not going to be impressed if Nova in that has slowed him down even just a tiny bit, because like you said, not even a 10th shaved off his time. The improvement was big enough to put him ahead of this Ferrari, but they're already locked in battle in qualifying, so I'm sure we're going to see it in the race as well. So Kana really wants every advantage he can have over the number 22 Ferrari here. But, oh, as he spins the Ferrari Ruben off into the gravel trap out of turn 9.
Yeah,
So
we saw it on the rear of, I believe it was Moen, who was flying ahead of him. We jumped on with Moen as he was going to be the first driver to set a new time here. We'll go back to him, but we saw that driver exactly where I said it could happen very commonly here in Spain. He came out of that uphill right-hander. It looks like he took a little bit too much of that curb, or maybe he cooked the tires. I didn't have an onboard look. Maybe you did, but that is going to be a hot spot for accidents here in this race. And now we have Moen coming into the pit lane, and it looks like he may be getting set to go for one more run in that Renault. As we jump on for another driver who's going to be looking to finish a flyer, it's going to be Hurricane, and he jumps into P3 with a 4-second improvement. It is a Ferrari 3-4 for the time being. Very nice lap from him, and I'm sure a lot of drivers weren't looking at him all the way down where he was a few moments ago, but now 4 seconds of an improvement. It really shows how poor that previous lap was, because that's just a major chunk of time found here. Now I believe it's Dirk Chocolate, who's on an invalidated lap, going to cross the line. Unfortunately, not getting a clean lap in. It might have been an invalidation on the exit, though. We'll have to see, as he does have another opportunity to set a time here. 2 minutes remaining. No fuel light on. He is on the medium compound tire.
Yeah, Steph's just improved by half a second. That puts him up into P11 in the AlphaTauri, just behind his teammate. Now, I know you just said Dirk invalidated his lap. It does look like he's going again, and he's on the mediums as well, so it's not going to harm him as much as it would be if he was on the softs right now. But as it stands, he's going to get free tyre choice anyway for the start of this Grand Prix, as Vettel's gone second fastest in the Racing Point, and 1:15 flat from him. Very close to pole. About 0.03 of a second in that one.
Yeah, and Ruben now in the Ferrari has said, that's it for me. I'm going to take it where I've got it. And he currently has a 1:15.158 on the board, sat in P5. So if any of the drivers behind him, and there is a very tight margin in this grid at the moment, from first to 10th, it is less than a second. Currently 0.986 is the gap to the lead driver in 10th position, so things are quite tight in this grid. Of course, Alexander is in the mix as well in 9th on mediums, which can play a major role.
Yeah, it looks like he's going again as well in that McLaren, again on medium compound tyres, like you said, so he's going to try and improve. He's currently 0.3 behind Falcon, who doesn't look like he's going for another try, as we're seeing now some of the top runners going around for their last shot here in this qualifying session. But Alexander, he could be set to improve on his previous best on those mediums. But other than that, it looks like most people are going to be opting for the softs.
So many drivers on flyers right now as we come down to the wire here in this qualifying session. We're always looking for the first driver to cross the line. We're going to jump on. I think it's JX. No, it's his teammate. That's Nova. Is he going to cross the line with an improvement? What's it going to be? It's a 2/10 improvement from him. His teammate JX now rounding that final corner, unfortunately invalidating his lap, so he will not be able to improve here. Unless, of course, he is just beginning, which is an entirely different story. That there is a timing desync in these qualifying sessions, so these drivers, although the timer is run dry here, they will have an opportunity, if they got across the line, to set another lap.
Alexander almost just improved by half a second there on the medium compound tyres. That puts him up to 8th place, so he does knock down Falcon, who is on an outlap right now. Like you said, we might have that timing glitch that allows him to go for another lap. Meanwhile, Lucha's rounding the final corner in the Mercedes. He's going to improve, not by much, but... And I don't think that's improved his position either. He's still 6th place in that Mercedes.
Now, Moen improves by almost half a second, but it's not enough to jump his teammate, Safzo. They're very tight, though. A 1:16.4 from Safzo in P14. Moen, a 1:16.427, so 0.02 of a second at the rear of his teammate right now.
Connor in the McLaren, he just invalidated his final flying lap, so he's stuck in no higher than 3rd place right now. Meanwhile, Nikolaitis in the Mercedes, he's out on a fly. He's still in pole as of right now, as JX goes a 1:15.1. That puts him ahead of the 2 Ferraris, I believe. As Nikolaitis coming around the final corner, a 1:14.864, 1/10 clear of his previous best. Didn't really need to do that lap, I don't think, but he's done it anyway.
Well, what a fantastic qualifying session it's been, as we are almost at the end. Of course, a few of these drivers still making their way back into the pit lane, looking for somebody who may be on a flyer. It doesn't appear we have anybody on a flyer, with the exception of maybe Falcon, who could be looking to finish things up here in the Racing Point. Of course, his teammate Vettel in P2 right now. He's looking to close the gap to him. Coming through that final chicane, through into the final turn now. DRS wide open. What's the time going to be? A P5, a major improvement from him, and that has shaken up the grid once again here in this qualifying session. And I believe with him crossing, that is going to finish up qualifying here. It's Nicolaitis in the Mercedes on pole position, with Vettel lining up next to him in the Racing Point, and Kana in third. And of course, we will go down the grid once again once the session has officially come to a close. But of course, looking at this grid for all of our viewers and fans and our lovely supporters in the chat, who are you looking at for the win here in this race? Tell us, of course. We'd like to hear it.
Yeah, and that was a rather interesting qualifying session. We were saying at the start how the gap to leader was, you know, in the top 10 was a little bit far, but look at the times now. They've been crushed. From 1 through 7, they're all within 3/10. So we're in for one hell of a fight here. I think those predictions that are going on in chat right now are going to be hard pressed to become accurate. Maybe not for a winner, but also for a podium as well. There's a lot of guys here who are definitely going to be fighting for. I'm going to be looking out for Alexander on those mediums in 9th place.
Yeah, and it's Nicolaitis on pole, Vettel in second, Kana in third, JX in fourth, Falcon rounding off the top 5. Of course, sorry to interrupt you there, Unicorn. We'll go through the rest of this grid on formation, as we've been told it's going to be a dry and somewhat gloomy, perhaps overcast-ish light cloud race. I don't know, we're seeing some sun here in the pit lane.
Yeah, it's not looking too gloomy here in Spain, but 18 seconds until that formation lap begins.
We have that final countdown coming down now as these drivers finalize their setups ahead of this formation lap. Of course, Parc Fermé drivers not able to adjust their car setups, however, able to adjust fuel. And for those starting outside the top 10, they can adjust what tires they choose to begin this campaign on. Now, we have that formation lap beginning here. Now, while we're on the formation lap, of course, just want to give a quick shout out to everybody in the chat, all of the viewers. We greatly appreciate all of you. Of course, Finn, thank you very much for the subscription. To any of you who may be new, my name is Strifium. Joining me on the in the commentary today in the booth is, of course, Unicorn. We greatly appreciate you guys coming to hang out for some racing. Be sure to hit that follow button, because we're going to be doing it weekly on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and on most Saturdays as well. And it looks like there's been a major issue here on this starting grid, as a multitude of racers have now been disqualified, and they're going to have to start this race with cold tires. Of course, the stewards are going to have a look at why that may have happened, and I certainly hope nobody else has been affected by that. But you see 6 drivers here have been reset to the start of this grid as a result of contact. That is what happens if any kind of contact is made between drivers on the formation lap. You are immediately reset to the starting grid, and you are not going to be getting any opportunity to heat up those tires, which can be actually absolutely crucial, especially around a circuit like Spain in that first sector. Things are going to be very, very difficult for those 6 drivers. Of course, P12 through down to 17, Dirk Chocolate in 17th there. And something that's very important to note, all of them are on the medium compound tires. But real quick before we jump through into this race start, it is Nicolaitis in the Mercedes on pole position, with Vettel lining up next to him on the front row, and then behind him we go down through. It is Kana, JX, Falcon, Hurricane, Ruben, Luctra, with Alexander and Extreme rounding off your top 10. It's Tim, Nova, Steph, Moen, and Safso in the 2 Renault, and Baza with Dirk Chocolate in 17th, Adam in 18th, and it's Cotters and Energy bringing up the final row of this grid from the rear. And thank you very much, of course, for all of the support in the chat. We greatly appreciate all of that. And we hope to bring you a very exciting race here, as the quali was quite intense. Of course, Unicorn, please do us the honors here for the first time. MRL EU action. Take us through this race start.
There we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights lit here in Spain. A little bit of delay. They're going again. But Those are the 5 red lights. What is going on with those lights? Someone's playing around with them. But there we are. Everyone is away here. Nikolaitis and Vettel getting good starts off of the line. Falcon as well. He's already jumped one place up past JX as Vettel looking at the inside of the Mercedes into turn 1. He's going to get the move done as well. Falcon now past the McLaren of Kana as well. So a very good start for the racing points. And that's Alexander. He's off a little bit wide through turn 3 in the McLaren there. No contact to speak of so far, it doesn't look like. But it is Vettel now who leads this Grand Prix. Nikolaitis in between the 2 racing points as Falcon's up 2 places. Hurricane now going around the outside of Extreme. He's not going to hit the move on the exit of the corner there, but going side by side down into the tight left-hander. The Ferrari just about edges out the Alfa Romeo there.
Oh, and Nikolaitis now in lead of this race when it began, of course, on pole position. Vettel and Falcon have robbed him like a couple of bandits in those racing points. And we saw a very amazing launch. Of course, it was Extreme 1409 with a bit of a shaky start off the line there, but he moved up the inside Stroll style. We saw it 2 weeks ago. And now he is into 8th position, but he's being picked off by a couple of these other midfield runners right now. And we still have an amazing exchange of positions. It's Safso and Alexander wheel-to-wheel into the chicane coming through Sector 3 right now. Alexander plagued by that unfortunate rev glitch right now, but Safso on those medium compound tires competing with him now. Coming down into turn 1, it's a battle back here in this fight for that final points position. Moen ahead, and it's now Alexander wheel-to-wheel with the Renault coming down into turn 1. Safso concedes that position, but there's a major battle happening right now between Hurricane and Kana coming through out of turn 3. Hurricane currently within half a second of the McLaren ahead.
Yeah, these 3, 4th, 5th, and 6th, they've been tight ever since the final sector of the first lap. And it doesn't look like they're going to be stopping anytime soon as Kana getting very close towards the Haas as well as Nikolaitis. He's looking to try and retake at least 2nd position from Falcon, who took it on the opening lap there. He didn't have a great start to this race, but Kana in this McLaren.
Lutra's had an issue. Lutra in the Mercedes. He's off. He's coming out on that left-hand side into that very, very hanging right-hander coming up that hill section, and he in that Mercedes has dropped into 20th position. This entire grid has now moved ahead of him, and he is on these soft compound tires. You can see he has a major portion of his front left wing missing, and now we have yellow flags coming up through Sector 2. Quite slow through there is Lutra. Now, of course, he'll have to come in for some wing repairs, and I believe we'll see him jump onto some, of course, hard compound tires, but now it's Falcon with Nikolaitis on the rear of him coming down into turn 1. Of course, Unicorn take over.
Yeah, meanwhile, we've also got 3 wide behind them. You can see the Haas, the McLaren, and the Ferrari. They're side by side, so Nikolaitis not getting past here, but Hurricane in P4 right now. He's got the McLaren of Kana behind him, and JX has just lost both the positions there in the opening few corners of lap 3. Obviously now DRS will be enabled this lap, and we're going to have that out of the 9th corner on that DRS straight, but JX, he's lost a couple positions as well, as Nikolaitis still on the back of Falcon there as well. He's going to take full advantage of DRS here as Vettel up at the front, already 2.2 seconds clear of his teammate.
Yeah, Nikolaitis there looking real close at Falcon. Falcon has dropped off a massive amount from his Mexican counterpart. That's Vettel out in lead of this race now by almost 2.5 seconds, leading his teammate Falcon. Nikolaitis on pole position when this race began. He is not going to be happy where he's dropped.
Yeah, Nikolaitis, he's not taking advantage of that DRS either. He's not been able to squeeze past there. Tim in the AlphaTauri now, getting a little bit close to JX, who's just dropped behind the 2 cars ahead of him. Tim's up 4 places where he started. He's now in 7th place, and JX a little bit bumpy on the curb in turn 15. Is that going to leave him vulnerable to the AlphaTauri? As Nikolaitis side by side down towards turn 1. DRS wide open. We've got the Ferrari of Hurricane as well, both getting past the racing point, and now the Ferrari and the Mercedes going side by side through turn 2. And it's Hurricane gaining another 2 positions. He's up 4 places from the start of this race.
Kana wheel-to-wheel with Falcon gets through into 4th position, and Falcon's dropped like a stone through this grid. Unicorn into 5th position, and Kana now is looking to keep up with Nikolaitis to fight back into these podium positions. Nikolaitis has been absolutely robbed. He was going for it on Falcon, and Hurricane said, "Excuse me, mate, you already had your opportunity for lead of this race. Now it's time for the Ferraris to step in and take control." Meanwhile, Vettel still very far out in front of this race. 3 seconds now is the gap, and he is pulling away quicker and quicker lap per lap.
Yeah, we were saying that the top 6 or 7 within 3/10 of each other, and they've been proving it here. For the first 4 laps, it's just been constant position changes. This is exactly what you want to see when you tune in to watch a race, just constant battling. And look at this train of cars. We've got second down to what I believe is now 8th place, potentially. No, it's 7th. This huge train of cars all fighting for second place.
Baz is off in the Williams. It looks like he had some kind of issue. I'm not entirely sure what happened with him.
Meanwhile, up at the front, Nicolaitis looking up the inside into turn 1. He wants that position straight back from Hurricane. He's up the inside for the first corner, but that's giving him the outside into turn 2, but up through turn 3, the long right-hander, and he is now a car's length ahead of the Ferrari. But again, side by side as they approach turn 4, another long right-hander here. And Hurricane doing an excellent job defending around the outside, and that's going to give him the inside line. He needs a big lockup from Nicolaitis, but he's got a better line. But
well, this battling, Kano, when that battle began, was within a second of reach. Now he's within half a second, and that's going to be bad for the Mercedes. But he has a big slip up there. It could have been his race if he didn't get it under control. He did a great job to get things back under control in the McLaren, but that's cost him some time. Nicolaitis currently half a second still on the rear of that Ferrari, and now this battling behind Vettel is giving him a very, very good opportunity to move ahead of some of these racers here. Now it's in the backfield. Cotters is very close to energy. DRS for the Red Bull. Of course, Dirk Chocolate, his teammate, is up ahead in 14th, and he would like to close that distance. But the racing that we have seen here among these 5 opening laps has been absolutely fantastic, if I may say. Now it's going to be Tim in that AlphaTauri. He is the closest gap to watch on circuit. Nicolaitis could be going for it into turn 1. We're going to jump on over there. He's going for it on the Ferrari, as is JX on Falcon. It's wheel-to-wheel into turn 1. Hurricane still out in front in that Ferrari, defending hard. Nicolaitis not able to get it done, but JX and Tim have both made it ahead, on Falcon, I think.
Falcon had a huge issue through turn 2. He got passed by JX through turn 1, and then Tim's coming around the outside of turn 2, and Falcon, he had a twitch. He caught the car, but he nearly spun it through turn 2, so he's had an excellent recovery, but obviously he's dropped like a stone again, now down another 2 positions through the first couple of corners.
Now, one thing to note here is another battle that is unfolding. It is the battle between the 2 Renault drivers. Mo in 8th position. That's Safzo in 9th, hunting him down. And he is on the harder compound tire. Can go a little bit longer than his teammate. The softs around here don't last nearly as long. Of course, it's going to be DRS and overtake for him. Maintaining station. Less than half a second is the gap. We get a bit of a lockup there from him, but I think we're going to see an exchange here coming down into turn 1. But I think before that, we might even have another exchange. It looks like Falcon's going to have an opportunity to make a run back on Tim.
And that's JX into the pit lane. So like you were saying just a second ago, these soft tires do not want to last too long as Falcon comes in as well. So the recommended strategy is lap 6 to 8 to pit for mediums off of these softs. I do believe that's for a 2-stop strategy. Riders not making a switch for second place with Hurricane. They're staying as is for now. This battle chilling out a little bit as Safso is past Moen, I do believe, through turn 1. And Moen under a little bit of pressure from Steph in that AlphaTauri. The medium combat tires are going to be coming alive right now. That AlphaTauri up the inside towards turn 4. Side by side through the corner, can we see Moen defend around the outside and go for the inside into turn 5? He's going to try it, but he's not going to make it. And that's costing time to Nova in the house behind, also on those medium tires. And I think this is the call, at least for Moen. It's time to get off of these soft tires. It's time to come into the pit lane.
Well, when you lose that much speed so quickly and you lose those positions, that's a major indicator that your tires are starting to betray you here, and these mediums are going to be able to go a lot longer than the softs. And we saw the speed coming out of Safso on the straight. We had a beautiful helicopter shot there. Now, the one thing was Moen was on that left-hand side, and it opened the door for Steph to kind of creep through. And it was very close as Steph wanted to make the move, I think, in turn 1. But, of course, coming out of there can be quite tricky. He was patient. Now we have all of those soft drivers in the lead of this race are into the pit lane now.
Atom's had an issue through the chicane, I believe, in the Williams. He's very slow through there. As we've got drivers in the pit lane. All of the top 4 came in. Vettel and Kana go for hards. Meanwhile, Hurricane and Nicolaitis, they've gone for the medium combat tires. Vettel comes out in 7th. Atom in the Williams.
Nova and Moen, I believe, exchanging positions there. into turn 1 on that DRS straight. Of course, Moen has opted to stay out on these soft compound tires. He's going to be going for the 8th lap on those, and it's going to hurt him here because the gap behind him, that's Dirk Chocolate in the Red Bull, currently in 6th position, and he is absolutely taking that gap down 10th after 10th. Of course, we saw it a few moments ago. Of course, the straight, you'll see a big difference. Even in that couple of turns we just saw him fly through, he's taken a couple tenths, so things are coming down drastically in times for that Renault. He's dropping off Nova rapidly, and he's falling into that Red Bull of Dirk Chocolate. Now we have another exchange. That is Hurricane in the Ferrari getting out in front of Adam.
Yeah, and he needs to make that position as well, because now he's got a few corners where Nikolaitis, his main rival right now in this race, has got to dispatch this Williams as well. As he does so, a bit of an unorthodox position. You wouldn't see too many overtakes through there, but he's made the move work. And that's JX now behind the Williams of Atom on those old tyres. And Moen finally comes into the pits.
Not only has he come into the
pits, he's got a puncture.
He has on the front left tire. Moen in the Renault has actually suffered a puncture here on that 8th lap, which means that these drivers, that was a huge stretch to be on those softs for 8 laps, that's for sure. So the drivers that came in on the end of lap 7 were most definitely feeling it.
That's something you see too often, as Kana now on the fresh hard tires. He's looking around the outside of turn 4 on Atom, who's struggling to keep pace with these leaders, or at least they were leaders before the pit window opened. Now Vettel, obviously he was leading this race by a good 2.5 seconds. The pit windows close that down a little bit. He's on the hards as well now. Hurricane only 1.5 seconds. As Dirk Chocolate, there's a big spin for the House of Nova, a huge collision. Vettel's out. Hurricane's been caught up in that as well.
Oh no, and it's outside of that. That's in that DRS section of Sector 2 where we were talking about it in qualifying. That can be a huge problem for some of these racers. We're going to have a clear view now with the McLaren. You can see the racing point off to the left. That's the Ferrari on the right. And I'm not entirely sure what happened. Of course, all the drivers will have their perspectives reviewed by the stewards post-race. Very, very interesting to see that. And that's 2 major players in this race. Vettel, who was absolutely dominating that first stint, is now out of this race.
Yeah, we've only got a VSC out of that, which is a little bit surprising given the magnitude of the crash. A couple of drivers are taking advantage of that. Tim, who was leading the race after the pit window, is now coming out just behind Nikolaitis and in front of JX. Obviously no overtaking right now on the VSC. He's on the hard tyre, so he has benefited quite a lot from this situation, because he's now sitting in what I believe is effectively 2nd place in this race as the safety car ends. He's on those hard compound tyres. He's going to be slower. You've got JX up his inside into turn 4. But Tim's carrying a lot of speed around this corner in that AlphaTauri. He's been a bit of a dark horse right here up the inside. He's got it for turn 5. He's going to be able to hold it, but you can see the speed JX is holding, but out of the corner. Tim still clinging on to this place as JX now up into the inside of this tight left-hander. He's gone a little bit deep, and that's the Haas. Oh no, he's the wrong car. Tim now in 6th position. Kana as well. He's got DRS, but the AlphaTauri's got it as well. You've got Falcon behind them as well. All of these guys on hard tyres, so no difference there. But Nikolaitis now, he's 3 seconds clear of JX, and 3 guys ahead of him yet to pit.
Ooh,
So
Kana
very strong.
had a little bit of a slip there, bit of oversteer. He got it corrected. Falcon, though, within half a second to him. Those are mistakes that he's done it again, Kana. And now Falcon has decided to come in. Falcon has pit off of these hard compound tires with 22 laps remaining in this race. Very keen to know what happened there with him. Of course, he has that entire front wing. It's possible he's serving a drive-through penalty. So I may have been mistaken in not seeing that he had picked up a drive-through penalty. So he is serving a drive-through in that racing point. And now it's Moen and Ruben wheel-to-wheel into turn 1. And we've caught that just as it was happening. Ruben gets out in front of the Renault, and what a great view we had from Falcon's POV coming out of that pit lane of that exchange. But of course, now on board with the Renault, he's going to be looking to maintain less than a second gap to Ruben, but Ruben looking very quick on these hards right now.
Yeah, that incident sort of removed most of the on-track battles for the front of this grid. We've got the 3 guys in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd yet to pit on these medium tyres. I believe they're the only people on this grid to not pitted at this moment in time. Safso, he's in the Renault, leading this race by 2.3 seconds right now, ahead of Steph in the AlphaTauri. Dirk Chocolate as well is in that Red Bull. He's obviously gained a huge number of positions, starting this race in, I believe, 17th position. And now he's up into 3rd place. Obviously, yet to pit, you can see Nikolaitis behind him.
Yeah, thing here right now, Nikolaitis has a couple of drivers yet to pit in Safso, Steph, and Dirk Chocolate ahead, and they've had a fantastic race, those three currently in the top 3 positions, but of course, they're a stop down here, and I think that a safety car would really do well for them. Of course, we were very close to having one. I think Kana now getting ready to make a move there on Tim. We'll jump on over with that, as he has a lot of speed in that McLaren right now, but of course, Nikolaitis, he just set that fastest lap there at the end of lap 11. He is charging through this field right now, less than a second the gap between him and P3, and those drivers haven't even pit yet. He's showing great speed right now because he's 3.5 seconds ahead of P5. And Kana still working and doing his best to hunt down Tim in that AlphaTauri.
Yeah, he's on the whole of the hard tyres, but obviously he qualified ahead of the AlphaTauri ahead of him. So now, maybe struggling for pace a little bit on these hard compound tyres compared to Tim, who seems to be finding his groove a little bit in the race. Maybe race pace is a little bit stronger for him compared to qualifying pace, but he's sitting in a very strong position right now. Possibly a net podium if this was as Nikolaitis. He dispatches of it Dirk Chocolate now, both on medium compound tyres, but Dirk much older rather. And Nikolaitis now, he's hunting down the front too. He's currently the net leader of this race in that Mercedes, the number 9 car there.
Now it's Adam under threat. That's Falcon. He tried to defend there. Falcon on the hard compound tires. Wheel to wheel into turn 1. It looks like he's going to get it done. The Williams, though, looking for a comeback move on the inside. Now back to the outside, and it is Falcon into 11th position there. Nicely done from him. He is on the 5-lap old hards at the moment. Adam is on the quicker soft compound tires. Those softs, though, very quick to degrade. And meanwhile, we have another exchange about to unfold. That's going to be Alexander looking at the rear of the Red Bull. Cotters currently running on the 5-lap old hard compound. And you see there's a bit of a tire difference. And look at the traction coming out there. And look at the switch coming out of that McLaren. Alexander on the inside now on the Red Bull. Is he going to get it done? That was a very neat and tidy move from him. Cotters struggling there on the outside, and Alexander with an absolute masterclass here through Sector 1. Very nice, or Sector 2, excuse me. Wow, really nicely done from him, and I'm glad we got an onboard view of that action.
Nikolaitis setting a 118.2 fastest lap of the race, but going to battling McLarens. We've got Kana on the back of Tim, looking up the inside. DRS enabled into turn 1. He's already made the move way before the corner. The ERS situation, both sending about half battery, but absolutely flying by, making it look easy past him. He's just been hanging back there for a couple of laps, but then comes to the start-finish straight, and he flies by as Falcon passes Moen into turn 1 as well.
Yeah, Falcon going wide, though, coming out of turn 2, and that's going to be Moen back by, and now it's Falcon. He has gone into the grass, and he's back on, and that could have been the end there for him. As we saw, his teammate already retire out of this one, and Adam, as a result, has had an opportunity to go at the Renault, and now he's ahead. That's Moen off into the gravel pit. Falcon moves back on by, and there's a huge exchange in this middle of the pack. Ruben, meanwhile, has caught up with Extreme in 8th position. Coming through Sector 2 now. This is where we've seen all of the confusion and retirement so far. Less than half a second for the Ferrari, hunting down the Alfa Romeo counterpart.
Steph, he's coming to the pits, as has Dirk Chocolate, so 13 laps on those mediums right now. They're coming off, presumably for hard tyres to the end, is what I would imagine they're going to do, unless they're going to do medium, soft. But, like an atom.
Extreme with a big slide out there on the final turn. It's going to be Ruben that inherits this position. He has a fantastic exit overtake in full swing, as well as that rear wing wide open. Now it's going to be Extreme falling back behind him, and now there's another exchange. That's going to be Adam getting bested by Falcon down into turn 1, and Dirk Chocolate now in that Red Bull is going to be coming out right behind them on some fresh tires, and he could be looking to fight himself into a very, very solid points finish here.
Yeah, a really strong strategy it will look like from Dirk, starting further down the grid, or much further down than his current 11th place, and he can be scoring some nice points here. He's got Atom ahead of him, who I was just thinking, I want to draw your attention to, Striff. He's on 4-lap-old softs right now, which is a very interesting decision at this stage of the race. He's not going to be able to switch to medium tyres after this set of softs, not to the end at least, so he's probably going to have to pit for hards in a few laps' time, where he's going to drop down the grid order quite a bit in this Williams.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Safzo, who was leading this race, now being overtaken by Nikolaitis into the lead, and it's going to be Safzo coming in for some fresh tires, and he's going to be going on hards until the end. Good question for him will be, where does he come out of the pit lane here? He's now in 5th. I believe that's going to be Ruben flying by in the Ferrari that's going to pass him in the Alfa Romeo of Extreme. Or not even. So he's going to come out safely in 5th now. Very nice from Safzo.
And look at the tyre difference as well. Ruben in that Ferrari, about 3.5 seconds down the road, is on 11-lap-old hards compared to Safzo's completely fresh tyres. They're going to take him to the end very comfortably. And he's in a very, very nice position, like you were just saying.
Yeah, and meanwhile,
at the front.
Well, real quick, Unicorn, before we talk about the leaders, it's going to be Dirk Chocolate getting out in front of Adam. He got down on that move into turn 1, as we've seen it throughout this entire race. Now he is into that final points position on these hards until the end. The only other driver on fresh hards other than him, well, the only other 2 in the points that are on those same tire life hards are, of course, Steph and Safzo.
Yeah, these guys on the one-stop, very strong, the mediums to the hards. And we saw, I believe it was Safzo who qualified on the mediums. He was adamant about this strategy. He wanted it from the beginning, but before Dirk made that move, I was just going to say, Nikolaitis and JX up at the top right now, both on the medium tyres. They don't have anywhere near a free pit stop in hand over a fair chunk of these drivers in the point scoring position. So they're running a fairly risky strategy. Obviously, it is going to be a second set of mediums here, but the hards don't seem to have too bad a pace around.
Yeah, meanwhile, Adam in the Williams has now come into the pit lane. He's getting off of those softs that have obviously betrayed him here after 6 laps, because he was just dropping so many positions, and he's going to come out, I'm going to assume, between, well, he may even come out behind Energy here. It's going to be tight. Cotters has made it through, and I think he is going to come out safely in 15th there, but Steph right now less than half a second separating him and the Alpha of Extreme ahead. Extreme having a good race in 7th position. Of course, we'll take a look at the position changes. You can see there Nikolaitis starting on pole position. He had a very dynamic start to this race. Of course, the driver giving him the hardest time, Vettel, came together with another very quick racer through this one. That's Hurricane and Vettel both out. It seems they had some kind of contact or some kind of issue, maybe trying to avoid one another, just retiring those cars. But it's going to be Nikolaitis in lead of this race where he began it in pole, and Kana maintaining that 3rd position. But JX has moved up 2 slots, Tim up 7 positions, and Safzo on a very good race, up 10 positions from where he began. Ruben up a slot there, Extreme up 3, Steph up 5, and Falcon's been the biggest loser here in this one so far. Of course, he's got some time to make it up, but he's dropped back 4 positions. And as we say, Steph now going for a move down into turn 1. That is going to be Extreme looking to defend, holding him as long as he can. Now Steph switching to that outside line. Extreme with a very good defense here, coming up through turn 2, and that's Falcon behind them, catching up very quickly. And there is the overtake wheel to wheel. Steph now on the inside, and Falcon's going to catch up with all of this action. Extreme now looking to bounce back. Can he get something done here? This fighting has cost them both some time to the racing point, and Falcon wants to move up this grid as far as he can to try and get as many points as the only driver in that racing point on the grid as his teammates out.
Yeah, you can see him just jostling behind him. He thinks he's got the pace right now, as that's a yellow flag for Codders in the Red Bull. He looks like he's fine right now. But yeah, Extreme, he was doing excellently to defend down into turns 1 and 2, but not able to keep that AlphaTauri behind for too much longer as he's slow through there. Falcon hounding that gearbox. He wants to get past. Are we going to see another overtake down into turn 13? Not now, but he's definitely going to have a very strong run on this Alfa Romeo down into T1 as they come around the final corner. DRS is enabled. Both cars have got it. Extreme just about in DRS range of the AlphaTauri is absolutely flying away from him. He shouldn't be able to get the move. I don't think he's too far back on Steph, but he's managed to defend against Falcon because of that DRS that he did get. So he clings on to 8th place for the time being.
Now, big thing to talk about here is that Alexander has now overtaken Moen. Moen into 12th position. He's on 9-lap old hards. Alexander, a life fresher compound tire. Of course, we saw Falcon there struggling to stay with Extreme, and it looks like there's been an issue for Falcon.
Yeah,
he has dropped wide. I guess he's come wide and lost 2 seconds. Well, not 2, but pretty much 2 seconds. He's most definitely out of DRS, and Extreme's going to be able to breathe as a result of that issue for the Racing Point. Now, JX, who was in P2, has come in off of those medium compound tires.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Not only is he informing Nicolaitis, it's time for me to switch off of these tires. I'm going for a fresh set of these mediums. But Nicolaitis now, he's got 8.5 seconds between him and Kana in the McLaren behind him.
Alexander, very tight to the rear of Dirk Chocolate right now. Dirk Chocolate on the much fresher hard compound. He's sitting in that final points position, but Alexander wants that too. He's getting ahead of the Red Bull into turn 1. Not much Dirk can do about it with that DRS and overtake being utilized.
Now, I know we saw Falcon go into the gravel trap outside of turn 4, but now something similar must have happened to Extreme because Falcon is now 3 tenths behind him again, and Steph is now the one breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief as the Williams of Baza there, I believe, are letting him pass.
Now, Ruben in that Ferrari on some fairly old hards. It's JX on these fresh mediums that's going to be putting some pressure on him.
Extreme as well. He's been passed by Falcon. The Racing Point not having too much of an issue on that DRS straight. And he's going to want to close that gap down to Steph.
Ruben opting to come into the pit lane. He's jumping off of those 16-lap old hards now, and it's going to be JX into 5th position now as a result. Now, a driver who's having one hell of a race here is Safzo. I think he's going to be on those hards until the end, and he has a very comfortable position right now in 4th. Of course, JX has something to say about it. On those fresh mediums, he's going to be looking to tear down that 3.5-second gap to the Renault.
Extreme just picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He's had a wing change as well on that Alfa Romeo, so not a good time for that to happen in the race. I mean, it was not a good time, but as an appalling time for it to happen for him. So he's dropping down the grid, and he's going to be hard pressed to gain any points now from this finish.
What a dynamic race start we had. Of course, that VSC that came across, we haven't had any full safety cars. They've been quite the rarity here in Season 3 of MRL. Of course, this is the first EU race, but we've been running it for about, well, 5 weeks of races so far for Tiers 2, 1, and Club divisions, and now EU kicking things off in Spain. But we haven't seen that many safety cars across the board in the league this season. And that VSC really took a lot of the intensity that we saw in the timing tower out of this race. I think a lot of these drivers were banking on a safety car possibility as well, especially when those yellow flags on the VSC came out in that Sector 2 crash. Still not entirely sure what happened between the Ferrari and Racing Point.
So Nicolaitis, he's just come out of the pit lane in 3rd place. Obviously, he was leading this race, now on a fresh set of medium tyres. Kana and Tim ahead of him, 13 and 11 lap old hards respectively. Are they going to be able to hold on until the end of this race? Or is this Mercedes on these fresh tyres just going to absolutely breeze by when he catches them? 11 laps to go.
Now, Falcon here is under threat from the McLaren of Alexander. We saw Alexander with some smooth moves earlier in this race already. Now he's on these 11-lap old hards. Falcon going to be feeling some tire wear on those. We saw Ruben come in after 15 laps on them. We'll see how Falcon copes with them.
One person I'm interested to see where they finish is Ruben. It's an interesting decision to see him pit off of those hards. Seemingly quite early as well. You know, he might have been able to take them to the end, but he obviously just didn't think that the pace was there. A risky decision. He is catching Nova a little bit now, who, although he is running a lot of low fuel, his warning light is flashing on and off right now, so he's going to be a little bit conservative with his fuel usage. As Alexander in that McLaren, he's got DRS on the racing point of Falcon ahead of him. Very little ERS in either of the batteries. Around the outside.
Ooh, very, very touch and go move there around the outside. A very difficult move to make through that second turn, but he made it do exactly what he wanted in that McLaren. Keeping control of things quite well.
And I bet Falcon wasn't expecting that. When you come down into turn one, you expect someone to fight for the inside. Oh, as Falcon into the back of Alexander, who had a lockup, and that's an end plate off of the front right of that racing point there. Is he going to come in and pit to repair that? He could go for fresh mediums at this point. It's not close enough to the end of the race for him to pit, get a wing change, go for softs.
Yeah, very unfortunate for him. The Racing Points having such a great start to this race. They were running 1-2 for quite a while. That first stint really shook things up over there.
That can play nicely into Dirk Chocolate's hands as well. He's only 5 seconds behind Falcon, so if he does have to dive into the pits, he is going to capitalize, as well as the likes of Moen, Nova, probably Ruben as well, if that Racing Point does come into the pits, but he's not going to. He's going to stick it out in 8th for now. JX now, he has caught the Renault of Safso, who's currently in 4th place. Obviously, JX, he was in 2nd for a long time. He's now on a new set of medium tyres. Can he get past and hunt down Nikolaitis for some podium positions? Cotter's into the pit. He gets a 5-second grid 5-second time penalty for speeding there. As Nikolaitis now right on the tail of Tim. Just a second separate the two cars now. He's absolutely destroyed that delta between him and 2nd place. And now he wants to step up on the podium, as it were, right now. Running for 2nd place. Overtake and DRS enabled. As he sets the fastest lap of this Grand Prix so far. 25 laps, or we're on the 25th lap, so 24 laps into the race, and he breezes past the AlphaTauri before turn 1. So he's under similar pressure to what Tim just felt, but he's managed to keep the Haas of JX behind him for now.
Things are so intense. Well. Steph and Alexander having an exchange there. Steph on the fresher tires, but Alexander with some good pace, keeping it ahead. He's now into 6th position. Now, in order for the 2-stop of Nikolaitis to win this race, he's got to crash the gap to Connor by 1 second every single lap here, and pass as well. Connor currently on 16 lap old hards. He's going to be going reasonably slow towards the end of this race as those tyres get older and older. Whereas Nikolaitis comfortably to the end. Now, a driver we're seeing catch up to some serious positions is going to be Ruben and Nova. But it's Ruben. We're going to jump back with him right now. He's looking at Nova, mowing there in 10th. And it's Nova into the rear of the Renault. He takes his front left end plate off. And now Ruben even more pace in that Ferrari behind that Haas. Coming down into turn 1. Oh, and Moen spun out of that right-hander, and you see Nova move into 10th position. Now Moen off. That's going to cost him. He's on those 15-lap-old hards that we saw Ruben get off earlier, and Falcons come in after 17, I believe it's 18 laps on those hards. Now Ruben is going to get into 10th position, maybe even 9th. 9th it is, so it's a fantastic race for him in that Ferrari so far. The South African making his MRL debut today, and it's going to be JX still within half a second of Safso in this fight for 4th, and you love to see these tight battles come down to the final laps in these races. And it's been a great debut for the MRL EU grid today so far, Unicorn.
Absolutely, and these guys teaching the hard tyres. If you're Connor right now, you're going to be trembling as Nikolaitis is absolutely meeting his quota of 1 second a lap. He's already down 6.7 tenths compared to the 8 tenths that he was last lap around. So, Kana, he's going to be a little bit worried, especially, obviously, we can't see tyre wear and how close these tyres are to the end of their life cycles, but it would appear the hard compound tyres really starting to slow down now with people ditching them at this stage of the race. Meanwhile, JX on the back of the Renault of Safso up the inside, DRS taking him past way before turn 1. And he secures 4th place for the time being.
Yeah, nicely done there from him. Of course, tires playing a big role in this one. The mediums are just generally quicker, but Safso isn't finished with them. There's still 6 laps to go here in this race. And of course, those mediums are going to need to last JX until the end, and they need to be quick until the end because these hards may just carry a little bit more pace at the end of this race. Of course, only time will tell. And time is something that Safso does not have a lot of right now. He wants to maintain as best as he can to that Haas. He's got DRS here on lap 27. The question is, will he have it down into turn 1? And will he be able to maintain enough of a gap to JX to keep it coming through sector 2 on lap 28? Now, one thing we haven't talked about a massive amount here in this race, of course, we haven't seen any safety cars, but is the penalty situation. A variety of drivers having penalties. Now, Lutra on the inside of Cotter still fighting down all the way through this grid. Of course, he's into 15th position now. And another driver who's going to be looking to take some positions is Nova. As he's come in, he's got some fresh mediums on, looking to go to the end on those, of course. Not too much left of this race, but it's Moen in 13th. We saw him have an issue in Sector 3 earlier. He's gone on to some fresh softs. So there's going to be a battle between these two until the end. Of course, those softs could betray Moen just in time for Nova to take an additional position. Of course, only the top 10 drivers in Formula 1 get points. But and there's still a couple battles unfolding for those points. One of them to talk about, Dirk Chocolate on the defense of the Ferrari now. Ruben into 8th position, already ahead of Dirk down into turn 1. And it's a very clean move there. Of course, tires at this point in the race are being one of the biggest role play. Well, they're having the biggest role to play at the end of this race, is what I'd like to say. But Safso has been doing very well. We checked in last time round. He was on lap 27. He had DRS when we came through Sector 2, and he has it once again here on 28. That was a big question. He's also up 2 tenths through Sector 2 on this lap, so he's got some good pace. One thing to talk about when you get to these tiny intervals is battery, and JX and Safso have a massive difference in battery right now. JX has basically what Safso has expended left in his battery. 27 on for him. He's utilizing overtake now because he knows that Renault's behind him, but Safso has such a reserve in that Renault right now. It's going to be hard for JX to stay in front.
Yeah, JX, he's at the disadvantage right now. Not only has he not got this, abundance of energy in his battery right now, but Safso, he's got DRS, he's got this ERS as well now, and he can sit here on these hard tyres, which are old, but so are JX's mediums, and by the time this race ends, Ruben sets the fastest lap of the race. He can just sort of sit here, preserve his tyres, whereas JX has to push and push and push to keep him from Safso, from coming past under these DRS zones. Whereas Safso, as long as he stays within that 1 second, he can just reserve his tyres. But up at the front, Nicolaitis, he is catching Karnat. He's dropped off a little bit, but Karnat, I was looking at the penalty situation that you mentioned. We hadn't looked at that a lot. Nicolaitis has 2 warnings, so he's close, but it does appear that Karna has a penalty. Whether or not he's been able to serve it, if it's a 3 second for exceeding track limits, he's not going to be unable to. So Nicolaitis might only be 8 tenths away from the win rather than 3.8.
Wow. The penalties making this fight for the lead even more intense, although the timing tower not really reflecting it. Now, one battle that is going to have some weight is JX versus Safso. Safso hasn't been able to pull the trigger on the Haas just yet for that track position. Of course, we are now entering the 30th lap of this race as Kana crossed that line. Let's take a look at who has been lapped so far in this campaign. I don't believe we've had too many drivers. It's going to be Energy and Baza, the only 2 drivers that have been lapped thus far. Take a look at position changes as well. It's been a very dynamic race for a lot of drivers. Of course, Kana in lead right now from P3.
Yeah, and Tim, he should be safe from the hard charging cars behind. His tyres are 19 laps old, but 4 seconds in 3 laps is a bit of a tall order for the likes of JX and Safso, but then he's got to keep it clean as well. Well, Nicolaitis, he's already on 2 warnings. He's got to keep his push for the lead very clean. He can't afford to pick up another warning, otherwise it's pretty much game over, because I don't think he's going to be able to grab this position on track with 3.5 seconds with only 2 laps remaining.
Oh, and
but
what an
Safso,
exit. What an exit from him. Safso in that Renault now with such a clean exit. It's a very clear move for him with the overtaken DRS in full swing, and now he is back into 4th position. Of course, we take a look at the position changes. Safso started this race in 15th on this grid, and he has had a fantastic race, a fantastic strategy, and it has brought him all the way through into 4th now. Of course, JX isn't finished with him, and this battle is going to continue down to the wire, I do believe. And this grid has spaced itself out quite a bit as far as the times are showing us now. But as you said, Unicorn, there's a different story to be looking at here. And it is that of the one, well, the stewards have created for us in these penalties. And Nicolaitis now is very tight to the rear of Kana, in effect, as Kana has 3 seconds.
Absolutely. If Nicolaitis can keep his nose clean, then he is, currently on for a very strong debut here in the EU League. I do believe JX has 2 penalties. If he served them, I can't see, but he's got a lot of warnings, so I do believe they're probably those pesky 3-second time penalties. The car behind him's got them, but Safso, his record is squeaky clean. He's only had 1 invalidated lap time, which is an interesting penalty, but no warnings for the Renault, so he is looking very strong as well. Not a lot, I don't think, that JX is going to be able to do, as we can see coming out of the pit lane there. And Alfa Romeo, that's extreme on soft tyres. He's just cost JX a chunk of time to the Renault ahead. So JX's job was hard, very hard. Now pretty much impossible, I do believe, if the race director is to be believed in terms of the penalties on track right now. But Nicolaitis, he's still out of the 3-second gap, so he needs to sort of put the pedal to the metal right now. He's got 3/10 to gain as they're in the final sector of the penultimate lap here.
It's been a crazy race with all the position changes, the heartbreak, I think, for Vettel and Hurricane there. They were 2 of the fastest on circuit today. They were exchanging positions for lead. We had them in that top 3. It's just an unfortunate finish for them in 19th and 20th. Of course, 20 drivers that began this race, 18 set to finish. And it's going to be, well, Kana looking like he's going to take this win if Nicolaitis doesn't have anything to say about it. But it's now 3 seconds still. We're now on the final lap of this race. And as we go here on the final lap of this race, there is a battle between Kana and Nicolaitis. Kana currently 3 seconds in penalties. Needs to push here to get out of range of Nicolaitis, who's wanting this win, I imagine, quite bad, considering it is, of course, the first race for MRL EU. He did start this race on pole position. He was overtaken by the Racing Point of Vettel on the opening lap, and now he has fought back to a possible race victory here after such a it was just a very intense first stint. Meanwhile, Safso and JX have had an exchange.
Yeah, that was down into turn 1. Again, if penalties are going to come into effect, that Renault hasn't got too much to worry about, given that JX appears to have what I think is 6 seconds worth of penalties. Also, Baza spun through turn 3. Obviously, he's currently lapping in last, but still unfortunate for the Williams there. Not a brilliant race to start the season for him.
Kana now crossing the line. It's going to be the checkered flag for the McLaren. Is it going to be a win for the Mercedes? It is. Kana's penalties setting him into 2nd position, and now it's Tim coming through that final chicane in the AlphaTauri. How's it going to go for him? Is it going to be a win? Up 8 positions in this race, or a podium, excuse me. It is. And Safso in 4th position, as well as JX crossing in 5th. Safso makes it from 15th all the way to 4th, and that is your top 5. Nicolaitis, Kana, Tim, Safso, and JX. Alexander now crossing the line in that McLaren, as well as Steph in the other AlphaTauri, and it's Ruben now who did start in 7th, came to finish in 8th. What a dynamic drive from him. And it's going to be Dirk Chocolate rounding out of the final turn now in the Red Bull, making his MRL debut. With a little bit of celebratory weaving. What a race from him, moving up 8 positions. And I imagine that is exactly the kind of race he wanted to have to kick things off to this season. I mean, we have a lot of fast guys in here. But Dirk has definitely been putting in the work. Now, Falcon coming home in 10th position with that final point. Adam in the Williams in 11th. And it's going to be Nova now in 12th with Lutra. And I believe it is his first race for wheel racing. Of course, usually on the pad. He comes home in 12th. What a race it was. MRL EU for the first time on a Tuesday. Of course, my name is Strifium. Joining me was Unicorn. Safso taking driver of the day. Of course, moving up 11 positions. Very nice drive from him. And it's a big congratulations to, of course, the Mercedes. Nicolaitis or Nicolaitis. I'm not entirely sure how to say it, but a fantastic drive, pole position. As well as the race win you see there. It is the McLaren of Kana in 2nd position. Of course, Kana crossing the line first here. Penalties setting him back. What an absolutely fantastic race. And of course, we're going to be doing it all again on Thursday. If you enjoyed the race, we have 2 races for you coming on Thursday. It starts off with Tier 2. That's at 3:15 p.m. CDT. Or, for those of you in Europe, of course, in the UK, we like to put things into BST for you. That's at 9:15 p.m. BST for Tier 2 action. And then 2 hours after that, we do it all again for Tier 1, 5:15 p.m. CDT, and that's 11:15 p.m. BST. Unicorn, it was Nicolaitis with the race win, Kana in 2nd, and Tim rounding off the top 3 here in this one. What do you think? It was Ruben with the fastest lap, the South African with a great debut, a 1:17.5, the quickest time on track today.
That was absolutely crazy. What a race, man. That was exciting from start to finish. Completely different to what we saw real life around Catalonia, but man, what a race that was. Strategy came into play. You've got the likes of Tim and Safso making up a huge number of places, as well as like Steph as well. 13th to 7th, not too bad. Dirk as well. 17th to 9th. Huge position gains for some of these guys. Obviously, Nicolaitis first to first. Maybe it wouldn't have been that case if Kana hadn't picked up that penalties, but that's the importance of racing, you know, within the track limits, learning those as well. It's all part of the game. So just an excellent race all around. Congratulations to everyone. What a start to EU division we've had here tonight, man. Absolutely brilliant stuff.
Yeah, really excited about that race, and it was a fantastic debut for the EU division. Big shout out to everybody who applied to join EU. Of course, we have a very great pool of reserves, and if any of you watching with us along in the stream is looking to join the Misfits Racing League, or just a great family style community overall, the Misfits is always looking for new blood. So of course, check us out on Discord, because just maybe you find yourself at home. Of course, Unicorn. I was looking at the chat. I saw Dirk's name, but of course, Unicorn, thank you very much for commentating with me as always. My name is Strifium, everybody. We are going to head on over and raid a member of the F1 community. We're just going to figure out who that is. Of course, we'd love for you to stay tuned with us to go and drop a nice big raid on a nice F1 streamer, because that's what we all love and enjoy, is that F1 racing. So, of course, if you have any recommendations in the chat, please feel free to let us know. Couple guys online right now. Let's take a look at who we could help out with a good raid after some super intense Spanish GP racing action. Of course, if anybody says the 2020 Spanish Grand Prix was boring, all you got to do is say, which race were you watching? I was watching MRL, because that was fantastic. Well,
completely different race.
It was a completely different race, to say the least. Of course, guys, thank you so much for watching. We are going to say good night or good afternoon to those of you in the North American regions, or the afternoon regions, if you will. And we're going to head on over and raid someone in just a moment. But before that, we have a couple of closing scenes we would like all of you to enjoy. And we will see you guys on Thursday for Tier 2 action once again. 3:15 p.m. CDT / 9:15 p.m. BST. Of course, you can find all the information about that on our Twitter. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the racing action, and if you did, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing for more great racing. Of course, you can check us out on Twitch. Every Thursday we have racing then, and we're going to have a lot more coming to you soon. Twitter, where you can find all of our updates, and Discord if you're interested in becoming a part of the Misfits community. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.